The first time Captain Elias Ward saw her eyes, the entire hall went still. They called her Princess Lyra of Alien Prime, the last daughter of an empire that once stretched across 12 stars. Her silver gaze didn't shimmer like jewels. It burned with quiet storms. She sat upon a crystalline dais surrounded by light and guarded silence, while hundreds of human diplomats and soldiers stood frozen, feeling like children before something ancient and unfathomably graceful. Elias was there as part of Earth's delegation, a soldier turned emissary after the long war between humanity. And the aliens had ended. The scars of the conflict still burned in both species. Every breath in that hall carried tension, every gesture measured. And yet, she watched him, not the generals, not the ambassadors. Just him, a human soldier from a blue planet far below her civilization's greatness. Her gaze never wavered, tracing the line of his face, as though she recognized something in him she couldn't name. It unsettled him. It made the air feel thinner, like he was standing too close to a star. When the ceremony ended, Elias tried to slip away, but a soft, melodic voice stopped him. "Human," she said, her accent a haunting blend of tones that almost sounded like music. "Stay." The guards looked uncertain. Even the translators hesitated. Elias turned slowly. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim chamber light. "Do you know?" she asked softly. "What fear looks like when it learns to love?" Elias didn't know what to say. He was a man of duty, not poetry. But her question sank into him like rain into dry earth. "No," he answered, his voice low. "I suppose I don't." Lyra rose from her throne. Her gown shimmered like flowing starlight, yet her steps were human, soft, deliberate, hesitant. She stopped before him, standing close enough that he could see the faint, crystalline veins beneath her translucent skin. "You fought against us," she whispered. "You were on the battlefield at Atheris Gate. I saw the recordings. You carried a wounded child through the fire." Elias blinked. That wasn't supposed to be public. Her lips curved faintly, but her eyes remained full of something far deeper than curiosity. Sorrow, perhaps. "Or guilt. You carried her, even though she was not your own." "She was a child," he replied simply. It didn't matter what world she was from. That answer made her close her eyes for a heartbeat. When she opened them again, a single tear, glowing faintly blue, slipped down her cheek. "You don't understand," she said softly. "That child was my sister." Elias felt the world tilt slightly. The hum of alien machinery around them dimmed in his mind. Lyra looked at him with a tremor in her voice, one that cracked the cold armor of her royalty. "I watched that battle from orbit. I saw you carry her through the flames while my father ordered the bombardment below. You saved her when I could not." Elias's chest tightened. She didn't survive," he said quietly. "I know," Lyra whispered. "But you tried. No alien soldier would have done that for a human, and yet a human did it for one of us." The silence that followed was thick and fragile. Lyra stepped even closer, her eyes shimmering. "That is why I wanted to see you, Captain Ward. Because since that day, I have not stopped dreaming of your face in the fire." Her words struck him like a wave. There was no pride, no command, only a confession wrapped in sorrow. And when she looked up again, something in her eyes flickered. A glimmer of fear. Or perhaps a secret still too heavy to speak aloud. "I have to tell you something," she whispered. Something no human was ever meant to know. But before Elias could respond, the doors opened, and the council entered, breaking the moment. Lyra turned away, her expression unreadable once more. But the damage was done. He would never forget the way she looked at him, as though she saw something beautiful, and it terrified her. For days, Elias couldn't shake her voice from his mind. Every night aboard the diplomatic vessel Orion, the silence of space pressed against the windows, and he found himself replaying that moment. Her eyes trembling, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have to tell you something." But the council's interruption had scattered the moment like dust in wind. After that day, the alien princess kept her distance. The negotiations resumed. Peace treaties, reconstruction plans, reparations. Every meeting was careful, political, rehearsed. Yet sometimes, when Elias caught her across the chamber, Lyra's gaze would find him again. Always calm, always composed. Yet behind that royal stillness, something called to him. One evening, while reviewing reports in his cabin, his communicator flickered. A faint chime, A message, coordinates, no sender. No words, he hesitated. The coordinates were inside the alien restricted zone, beneath the capital citadel. A human entering there uninvited could be executed, but something inside him, something quiet and certain, told him it was her. He went. The corridors beneath the citadel were carved from translucent stone that glowed faintly from within, like veins of living light. The air was cooler here, filled with the low hum of ancient engines. He followed the path until he reached a chamber guarded by nothing but silence. And there she was. Lyra stood before a large glass panel, her reflection fractured by streams of light. She didn't turn as he entered. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said softly. "I wasn't sure I should," Elias replied. Lyra faced him then, her expression unreadable. "You are brave. Or foolish? Maybe both," he said with a faint smile. Something almost human touched her lips. The shadow of a smile that vanished too quickly. "Then perhaps you are the right one to hear it." She pressed her palm to the glass wall. The surface shimmered, revealing a chamber beyond, vast, filled with pale blue light. Inside floated hundreds of crystalline cocoons, each one pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Elias's breath caught. "What is that?" Lyra's voice trembled. "My father told the galaxy that we lost the war because humans were ruthless, because you unleashed weapons we had never seen. But the truth is, we were dying long before you fired a single shot." Elias stared at her. "Dying?" "Our sun began to fade," she said. "Our genetic lines grew thin. Every generation fewer children survived. Those chambers," she gestured toward the cocoons, her eyes dimming, "they hold the last of our kind. My people are not rebuilding, they are being preserved." Elias felt his heart sink. "So, you mean the aliens are already extinct?" she whispered. "Only the ones within this citadel still breathe, and even they are echoes." The revelation was crushing, but her tone carried no self-pity, only weary resolve. "My father swore we would never tell the humans," Lyra continued. "He feared you would use our weakness to enslave us. So he declared a false peace, while secretly preparing for surrender through preservation. But she paused, her voice trembling. "I cannot live in a lie. I cannot lead my people into a tomb." Elias stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "Then why tell me? Why risk everything?" Lyra turned to him. For a moment the mask of royalty vanished, revealing only a woman burdened by truth. "Because when I saw you on the battlefield and carrying my sister, when even my own soldiers fled, I realized something." "What?" "That humanity fights for life, not conquest," she whispered. "That maybe. If I told a human the truth, it wouldn't be the end of us. Maybe it would be the beginning of something new." The chamber's light reflected in her eyes, making them glow like silver moons. Elias didn't speak. He only looked at her, not as a princess, not as an alien, but as someone standing on the edge of despair, still daring to hope. And in that fragile silence, Lyra took a step closer. Her voice lowered, almost trembling. "There's more, Elias," she said. "Something deeper. Something that could destroy both our worlds if anyone else learns it." He held her gaze. "Then tell me." Lyra looked down. "Not here. Not yet." She reached out, her fingers brushed his wrist, light as starlight. "Electric as memory. When the twin moons rise," she whispered, "come to the gardens above the citadel. Alone." Then she was gone, a shimmer of silver light retreating into the shadows. Elias stood there, the hum of the chamber surrounding him like a heartbeat, realizing he had just stepped into something far greater than a peace treaty, something that could rewrite the fate of both species. When the twin moons of Elian Prime rose, the sky burned with quiet beauty. One silver, one blue, their light draped over the citadel like silk spun from forgotten dreams. Elias stood alone in the royal gardens, surrounded by towers of glass flowers that glowed faintly at the touch of starlight. The air was rich with a scent like rain after lightning. Every step echoed softly on the crystalline path, and every shadow whispered of secrets not meant for human ears. He didn't know what to expect, only that Lyra had asked him to come alone. A figure emerged from behind a lattice of shimmering vines. The princess moved like moonlight in motion, her gown flowing, her eyes reflecting both fear and quiet determination. "You came," she said softly. "You asked?" Elias replied. Keeping his voice even, Lyra studied him for a long moment, then turned toward the vast view of the city below, endless domes and silver spires glowing beneath the moons. "This garden," she murmured, "was planted by my mother. Every flower here glows because it remembers her touch." She believed that memory itself was alive, that love could be woven into light. Her voice trembled just slightly. She died believing that. Elias stepped closer. "Lyra," he said gently, "whatever you're hiding, whatever truth you're carrying, I can take it. You don't have to face it alone." Lyra turned then, her gaze sharp and searching. "That is what I fear most, Elias, that once you know it, you will leave." He met her eyes steadily. "Try me." The silence stretched between them, soft, fragile, and heavy with unspoken words. Then slowly Lyra raised her hand and touched the air. A faint ripple appeared and a holographic projection shimmered to life. A map of the alien system. But this was not a map of glory. It was one of ruin. 57 years ago, she began, my father's scientists discovered something beneath our world. An ancient core, older than our civilization itself. They believed it was the source of our world's energy. But it wasn't just power. The hologram zoomed closer, to a glowing sphere deep below the planet's crust, pulsing like a heartbeat. "It's alive," she whispered, "a consciousness. The alien sun didn't die naturally. It was feeding this thing. My people called it the Eclipsera. My father used its power to sustain our empire, but every time he drew energy from it, it consumed something in return." Elias frowned. "Consumed what?" "Life," Lyra said, her voice breaking. "Our vitality. Our children. Our future. The reason our kind is fading isn't sickness and it's debt. We stole too much life from the core and now it's taking it back." Elias stared at her, stunned. "You mean your empire's greatness was built on the sacrifice of generations," she finished. "And my father swore no one would ever know." Her shoulders trembled. "He ordered the truth buried. Those who tried to speak it were erased. Even I was forbidden to know, until I found my mother's archives after she died. She recorded everything." Lyra turned away, tears glinting in the moonlight. "Elias, if this secret spreads, my people will lose all faith in the royal line. But if it remains hidden, we will all die in silence." Elias took a step forward, his heart pounding. "Then we tell the truth. Together." She looked up at him, and for the first time the mask of the princess fell completely away. "You don't understand. The Eclipsera is awakening again. The more the Citadel draws power to preserve our people, the faster it stirs. If it wakes fully," she closed her eyes, "it will devour the entire system, yours included." Elias's breath caught. "So this isn't just about alien." "No," she said. "This is about every living thing under these stars." The garden lights dimmed suddenly. The air rippled with a low hum like a pulse beneath the ground. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's begun," she whispered. "It can feel us speaking of it." Elias reached for her hand instinctively. "Then we stop it." "Tell me what to do." Lyra's gaze flickered to their joined hand, his rough human palm against her luminous skin. "There is one way," she said. "But it requires a bond stronger than power, a connection between species that the universe has never seen before." Elias held her gaze. "You mean?" Lyra nodded. "A joining of minds. A merge between your soul and mine. If we fail, both of us will die." The moons glimmered above them like twin witnesses to fate, and beneath their light, the human and the alien princess stood on the edge of a choice that could end worlds. Or save them. The wind was still that night, as though the entire world held its breath. In the hidden sanctuary below the citadel, where crystal walls glowed with veins of pale blue light, Elias stood across from Lyra. Between them hovered a sphere of shifting energy, soft at first, then pulsing like a living heartbeat. "The Eclipsera's echo. This is its fragment," Lyra whispered. "A seed of the core's mind. It connects to everything, the stars, our thoughts, even our fears. If we can reach it together, maybe we can calm the awakening." Elias felt the heat of its energy against his skin, like fire and frost combined. "And if we fail?" Lyra's gaze didn't waver. "Then it will consume us first." The silence that followed was heavier than gravity itself. Elias took a slow breath. "Then we don't fail." Her lips curved faintly. a fragile smile gone almost as quickly as it came. You speak as if human will can bend the stars. Maybe it can, he said quietly. It's the only thing that's ever kept us alive. She looked at him for a long moment, and in that look the centuries between their races seemed to fade. Then without another word she reached for his hand. Her skin was cool, almost weightless, yet he could feel a strange rhythm beneath it, like two heartbeats trying to find harmony. Close your eyes, Lyra whispered. He did. At first there was nothing but darkness, then white warmth, a rush of light. He saw flashes not of his life but hers, a palace built on starlight, a child laughing beside a silver river, a father's stern voice echoing across endless halls. Then warfire loss, the day she watched her sister die. The memories hit him like a storm of emotion, pain, guilt, hope, all bleeding together until he couldn't tell which feelings were hers and which were his. Lyra, he breathed. I can feel you. Her voice echoed softly inside his mind. That's the point, Elias. The merge isn't about control. It's about trust. The sphere before them grew brighter, spinning faster. The ground hummed with power. For a heartbeat, he felt the pulse of something vast, not evil, but ancient. A mind so immense it barely noticed the difference between stars and souls. Then came the whisper. Not Lyra's, not his. Something deeper. A voice that seemed to rise from every molecule of the air. Who disturbs my dream? Elias gasped as images flooded through him. Galaxies burning, civilizations rising and falling like sparks in wind. The Eclipsera wasn't just a power source. It was a memory of creation itself. It had once been a star's heart, and it remembered everything it had ever consumed. Lyra's grip on his hand tightened. Eclipsera, she called aloud, her voice trembling but firm. Hear me, we are not your enemies. We are what remains of what you made. The ground shook. The air warped with thunder. The voice replied, not in words but in feeling. Loneliness, hunger, betrayal. Elias felt it pierce through him like an ache older than time itself. It's afraid, he said aloud, realization dawning. It's not angry and it's afraid of dying. Lyra's eyes widened. Then it mirrors us. My father feared death so much he chained it. We must show it life still has purpose, even after loss. She looked at him. No longer a princess. No longer a figure of legend, but someone painfully, beautifully alive. Elias, she whispered. Let me guide you. Their hands tightened. And suddenly the light consumed them both. They stood, not in the sanctuary, but within a sea of starlight. The Eclipsera's mind stretched around them, infinite and luminous. Voices sang in the distance, echoes of the lives it had once taken. Lyra stepped forward, her form shimmering. Do you see it now? She said. It's beautiful. And broken. Elias reached out, his human warmth brushing against the living light. Then we heal it, he said. Together. The Eclipsera's glow flickered violently, then dimmed, as if uncertain. Elias focused every thought on one truth, that humanity always fought to rebuild. To protect, to love again after loss. Lyra joined him, their thoughts merging until there was no separation between human and alien, only two sparks burning against the dark. And slowly, impossibly, the light around them began to calm. The core pulsed gently, its chaos softening into rhythm. Lyra gasped softly. It's listening. But then at a tremor, a ripple of defiance, the chamber shuddered. The energy surged again, wild and violent. Elias's knees buckled, pain flooding his chest. It's too strong, he gasped. Lyra's hand clutched his. No, don't let go! He held tighter, through the agony, through the fire, until the world dissolved again into white. And as the light swallowed everything, he heard Lyra's voice, faint, breaking, filled with a sorrow that pierced his soul. Elias, if I don't survive this, promise me you'll remember what we tried to do. Then came silence, and the light broke. Silence fell like ash after a storm. Elias awoke to the faint hum of distant machines. The floor beneath him was cracked glass, glowing faintly with the pulse of something dying, or perhaps being born. The air smelled of heat and ozone. His uniform was torn, his hands burned where the merge had nearly consumed him. Lyra, he whispered hoarsely. No answer, he forced himself up, every muscle trembling. Around him, The sanctuary that once glowed with life now flickered like a candle at its end. And then, through the veil of smoke and light, he saw her. Lyra lay near the edge of the chamber, her hair fanned out like liquid silver, her gown torn and dimmed of its luster. She was breathing, shallow, fragile, her skin faintly translucent, as though her light had been drained. Elias stumbled to her side and fell to his knees. "Lyra, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open. They no longer glowed. They shimmered faintly like reflections of distant stars fading at dawn. "Elias," she whispered, her voice thin as silk. "You're alive." "So are you," he said, though his voice broke halfway. "We did it and we stopped it, didn't we?" Lyra's gaze drifted past him to the heart of the chamber. "Look." Elias turned. The Eclipsera's core, once a blinding mass of energy, was now dim. But within that dimness pulsed something new. Color. A swirl of gold and blue forming patterns like living breath. "It's calm," he said softly. "It's not attacking." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, not of pain but of wonder. "You showed it life. It felt your memory. The child you saved on Ithris Gate. It saw that moment through you. It understood compassion." Elias froze. "You mean, it felt that?" She nodded weakly. "Yes, you gave it something no alien ever could. The will to care for life instead of consume it." Her hand reached for his, trembling. "You don't realize what that means, do you? It wasn't my mind that calmed it. It was yours." Elias stared at her, heart pounding. "Then it was humanity that—" "Yes," Lyra whispered. "You showed a dying star how to feel human." For a moment there was silence, just the two of them surrounded by the faint hum of rebirth. But then a low rising vibration rolled through the chamber. The floor shook again, not with fury but with awareness. The Eclipsera wasn't sleeping anymore. It was listening. Lyra's expression turned grave. "It's reaching for us again. Not in anger but in need. It wants something." Elias swallowed hard. What could it possibly want now? Lyra's gaze unfocused, her pupils glowing faintly as if she were hearing words too faint for him to grasp. Then suddenly she gasped, her body jolting as a surge of light rippled through her veins. "Lyra!" Elias shouted, catching her before she collapsed fully. Her voice came out barely audible, like wind through glass. "It's showing me—" "What?" "The others. The cocoons beneath the citadel. They're connected to it. Every life my people preserved was bound to the Eclipsera's energy. If it stabilizes, they might awaken. But if it dies—" Her voice trailed off, horror dawning in her eyes. "They all die with it." Elias tightened his grip on her hand. "Then we keep it alive. We find a way." She shook her head faintly. "It's not that simple. The merge linked us to it, our minds, our energy. It's feeding through us now. If we separate too soon, it will collapse. If we stay, it will drain us both." He froze. "So one of us has to stay connected." Lyra nodded, tears falling silently. "Yes, no," Elias said immediately. "We'll find another way." Her faint smile cut through the smoke. "You still think like a soldier. Always a plan. Always hope. That's what I—" Her voice trembled. "What I love most about you." The words hit him harder than the explosion that had thrown them apart earlier. He looked at her, this fragile being of light and sorrow, and saw not an alien princess but someone unbearably human. "Lyra," he whispered. "Don't." But she was already fading. The glow from her skin was brightening, her pulse sinking with the cores. "You have to live," she said softly. "For both of us." "I won't leave you," he said fiercely, gripping her shoulders. "Not after everything." Lyra lifted a trembling hand to his face. "Then remember me," she breathed. "Remember that for one moment." An alien heart and a human soul beat together. The light intensified. The Eclipsera pulsed once, twice, then exploded into a silent bloom of energy that washed over them both like dawn breaking. When the brilliance faded, Elias was alone in the chamber. The core shimmered gently, alive but at peace. And beside him, where Lyra had been, only a faint trail of silver light drifted upward, like the last sigh of a star. Elias knelt there, hands trembling, eyes fixed on the space she'd vanished from. For the first time in his life, he didn't know if he'd saved a world, or lost the only one that ever truly mattered. The Citadel was silent for 3 days. After the explosion, rescue ships from both alien and Earth arrived. finding the city half buried in light. Thousands had seen it from orbit, the pulse that tore through the clouds like a sunrise. The alien core was stable again, its fury gone, but the princess was nowhere to be found, and Captain Elias Ward refused to leave. He stayed within the shattered sanctuary, surrounded by ghostly echoes of the merge, faint ripples in the air that whispered when no one else was near. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't slept. The healers tried to move him, but he simply sat beside the dim crystal where Lyra had vanished. He could still feel her warmth in the air, faint and fading. On the morning of the fourth day, the Eclipsera stirred. A faint hum rolled through the chamber like a sigh beneath the earth. The surface of the crystal rippled, and a single thread of light rose from within. It twisted and danced like smoke until it formed a figure, not solid, not alive, but luminous. "Lyra," he whispered. Her face took shape, gentle, radiant, smiling faintly as though she'd been waiting. Her eyes shimmered, not silver anymore, but gold, the same color as the core's calm new glow. "Elias," her voice said, not through the air, but directly into his mind. "You stayed." He stood shakily, every emotion in him fighting for breath. "I thought I lost you." Her light flickered gently. "In a way you did. My body is gone, but a part of me remains here, within the Eclipsera's memory." Elias's throat tightened. "Then it took you?" "No," she said softly. "I chose this." When the merge reached its peak, the Eclipsera couldn't understand death or love. I gave it my essence, my emotions, my memories of you, so it could feel what it means to live without taking life. She smiled faintly, though her form wavered. "You didn't just calm it, Elias, you changed it. It's awake now, but it no longer hungers, it learns, through me." Elias swallowed hard, fighting the ache in his chest. "So what happens now?" Lyra looked around, her gaze drifting toward the glowing pillars. "My people will rise again. The cocoons will open. The aliens will live, not as conquerors, but as keepers. The Eclipsera's power is theirs to guard now, not exploit." Her eyes softened, shimmering with something far more human than he ever thought possible. "And your world will be protected. It knows Earth through your mind. It remembers your compassion." A long silence filled the chamber. The hum of the Eclipsera became a rhythm, soft, steady, almost like breathing. Elias took a slow step closer. "If part of you's still alive in there, then there must be a way to bring you back." Lyra's smile deepened, tender and sad. "Always the soldier. Always trying to rescue what cannot be rescued. I can try." She tilted her head. "And if you succeeded, if I walked the stars again, would you forgive what my kind did to yours?" He met her gaze. "I already did." For a heartbeat, her image flickered brighter, as if the Eclipsera itself felt that truth. "You see?" she whispered. "That is what makes you human. You forgive the stars for burning you." Elias clenched his fists, his voice breaking. "Lyra," her form wavered again, light trembling. "The connection won't last. The Eclipsera's memory cannot hold me forever. But before I fade, there's something I must leave you." The air around him shimmered. A small shard of light drifted from her chest toward his hands. It was warm, alive. "What is it?" he asked. "An echo of the merge," she said. "A piece of what we created together. It carries both our essences, human and alien. Keep it safe. Someday your world may need it." Elias looked down at the glowing shard, no larger than a flame trapped in glass. He could feel it pulsing in rhythm with his heart. When he looked up again, Lyra's form had begun to dissolve. "Lyra, please," he whispered. Her final smile was faint but full of peace. "You once said humanity fights for life. Now I know you were right. Don't stop fighting, Elias, not until the stars remember who taught them mercy." The light faded. The chamber dimmed, and for a long time Elias stood there, holding the shard against his chest. The hum of the Eclipsera echoing like her heartbeat in the dark. He whispered, barely audibly, "I'll remember." Outside, as dawn rose over the broken citadel, the two suns of Alien lit the sky. One gold, one white, shining together for the first time in centuries. And in that light, Elias felt her presence not as loss, but as promise. Years passed. Worlds changed. But Captain Elias Ward never forgot the sound of her voice. That last whisper of starlight saying, "Don't stop fighting." The war was long over. The treaties had become bridges between Earth and Alien Prime. Trade routes opened, cultures intertwined, and the fear that once haunted both races faded into something gentler: curiosity. Yet even as the galaxy healed, Elias carried one secret the others didn't know. The shard, it still pulsed faintly like a sleeping heartbeat. Sometimes when the nights were quiet, he swore he could hear her not in words but in feeling, warmth, calm, and the faint echo of laughter that no memory could fully erase. He never told the councils about it, not the scientists, not the generals. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a relic. It was a promise. And promises, he thought, didn't belong in laboratories. They belonged in hearts. The day Earth's skies changed began like any other. Elias was stationed at the newly built Unity outpost orbiting just above the moon. The first joint Earth-Alien station, a symbol of peace, named by the new queen herself, Lyra's cousin, who ruled with quiet grace. He was standing at the observation deck when it happened. The stars began to move. At first, they seemed to shimmer, as if the vacuum itself had rippled. Then beams of light, golden and blue, streamed across the heavens, converging toward Earth's orbit. The alarm sounded instantly. "Unidentified energy signatures," shouted one of the officers. "Origin Alien Prime." Elias turned sharply toward the window, but deep down something in him already knew. The pulse, the rhythm, the harmony. It matched the heartbeat he'd felt every night through the shard. He reached into his jacket and pulled it out. The crystal burned against his palm, alive again, radiating warmth. "Sir," an officer called out. "What is that?" He didn't answer. He stepped forward, holding the shard against the glass. The lights outside pulsed in response, matching it, beat for beat. A wave of golden energy swept across the station, harmless yet overwhelming. Systems flickered, monitors dimmed, but not one soul felt fear. Instead, there was music, a faint hum in the air, a sound that wasn't mechanical but alive. And then, in the vastness beyond the window, the light took form. Not a ship. Not a storm. A voice not heard but felt. Elias, his breath caught. "Lyra." The crew looked around, confused, and they heard nothing. But he heard everything. Her tone wasn't sorrowful this time. It was filled with calm, with clarity. "You kept the promise," she said. "You built what we dreamed of." Elias pressed a hand to the glass. His reflection shimmered in the golden glow.
"I thought you were gone." "I am," she said softly.
But not lost. The Eclipsera has awakened across the stars. Its light flows through every system now, carrying balance, life instead of hunger. You gave it purpose, Elias, and through it, I see you. He felt tears gather at the corners of his eyes. "I never stopped hoping you'd come back." Her voice smiled through the silence. "In every human act of kindness I already have." The lights outside expanded, a breathtaking aurora of color sweeping across the Earth's night side. Cities below shimmered with golden rain, harmless energy touching the oceans, the clouds, the forests. "The stars remember now," Lyra's voice whispered. "They remember compassion. They remember you." Elias could barely breathe. "What do I do with this, Lyra? With everything we started?" The voice faded gently like the tide receding from shore. "Live, Elias. Teach them what it means to be human. The rest, the stars will carry on their own." The shard in his hand dimmed, its warmth softening into a quiet glow, no brighter than a heartbeat at peace. And for the first time since Alien Prime, Elias smiled, not with grief but gratitude. That night, as Earth's skies lit up in colors no one had seen before, children across the world pointed upward in wonder. They called it the Second Dawn. Scientists couldn't explain it. Diplomats called it the light of unity. But Elias knew the truth. He sat beneath the viewport of the station, watching the sky burn softly with gold and silver, whispering her name one last time. Lyra. And somewhere, far beyond human reach, a pulse of starlight answered, faint, familiar, and eternal. The stars had remembered, and they would never forget the night a human and an alien princess taught the galaxy what it truly meant to be alive.